Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're jumping right into an incredible pop culture update about a character who literally shaped the childhoods of millions across the globe. Yep, we're talking about Pingu. The mischievous claymation penguin is officially making a massive comeback to our screens. So let's just dive right into this explain.
Back in October 2024, Mattel dropped some huge news. They announced they're co-developing a brand new 3D stop-motion series. And their creative partner for this? None other than Aardman Animations. You know, the absolute legends behind Wallace and Gromit and Chicken Run. Josh Silverman over at Mattel really hit the nail on the head when he said, "With Aardman's stop-motion magic and Pingu's universal charm, we are excited to create fresh snow-filled stories." But hey, before we look ahead to where Pingu is going, we really need to understand exactly where he came from.
Because it begs a really fascinating question. How on earth does a mischievous penguin who speaks absolute gibberish conquer the world? Really think about it. How did the handcrafted 1980s Swiss-German television creation become such a massive global icon, one that totally transcends borders, languages, and generations? Well, it turns out it's a phenomenal case study in character design, physical comedy, and just pure, unfiltered storytelling.
And looking back at his journey, Pingu's staying power over the years is just remarkable. He made his debut way back in 1986 with the original series created by Otmar Gutmann. Then came a 2003 acquisition by the British company Hit Entertainment. Fast forward to 2017, and we get a Japanese computer-animated spin-off called Pingu in the City. And now, the 2024 Aardman reboot announcement. The sheer ability of this property to adapt and thrive across 4 entire decades is nothing short of mind-blowing.
Section 1. The Magic of Penguinese.
So, if you've ever watched the show, you know Pingu doesn't speak English, or German, or literally any real-world language. The dialogue is actually rooted in a fascinating theatrical technique called grammalat. Basically, it's an approach historically used by clowns and in Italian commedia dell'arte. It sounds like a structured language, right? But it's essentially just highly expressive gibberish. The original voice of Pingu was this incredibly talented Italian voice actor named Carlo Bonomi. And get this, Bonomi actually voiced every single character in the show's first 4 seasons, recording entirely without a script. He drew his inspiration from abstract clown languages, and he originally intended his Penguinese to be a playful parody of the Milanese dialect. Later on, when Hit Entertainment acquired the rights in the 2000s, London-based physical theater actors David Sant and Marcello Magni took over the vocal duties. And Sant shared this wonderful behind-the-scenes anecdote that perfectly captures how all this worked. Because even though it sounds like total nonsense, Penguinese is actually surprisingly precise. The animators would script the episodes in English, and then the voice actors had to translate those scripts into Penguinese on the fly while watching the animation play back. They made up about 95% of the words on the day, but they kept a really consistent vocabulary for certain things. For instance, the English word toy became tellybelly, and drink became cioccolani. It was exactly this invented universal language that allowed Pingu to completely break down international broadcast barriers.
Moving to Section 2, The Craft, Animating the Penguin World.
Okay, so when the British team took over from the original Swiss-German studio, they had to rescue all the original assets. Animator Steve Cox recalled visiting the Swiss studio and finding these old, decaying puppets that he said looked like zombie penguins. To keep up with the intense production demands of a television show, they utilized a technique called replacement animation. Now, traditional stop-frame animation usually involves a single plasticine puppet that an animator has to carefully resculpt frame by painstaking frame. But for Pingu, they used hundreds of pre-made resin mold puppets. If Pingu needed to walk, they didn't just bend his legs. They actually swapped out the stationary puppet for one with a raised leg. They used 8 completely different puppets just to complete one single walk cycle.
The absolutely crucial point here is how this meticulous animation style fed directly into the storytelling itself. Animator Steve Cox summed up the core philosophy of animating Pingu brilliantly. He said, "I'd strip away all adult notions of consequences and have Pingu just doing things without thinking." The animators had to literally get inside Pingu's head, giving him pure, character-driven motivation. There was no childish narration spoon-feeding the audience, and there was absolutely no heavy-handed patronizing moral at the end of the episode. Nope, Pingu just charged in, got himself into trouble, and tried to figure his way out of it.
Which brings us to Section 3, The Edge, Naughty Penguins and Bands.
It is so fascinating to look back at how different cultures reacted to the original Swiss-German creators' completely unembarrassed approach to life. Actually, several episodes faced censorship or even outright bans over the years. For example, an episode called Little Accidents was banned from broadcast in several regions for its use of toilet humor and fairly realistic depictions of urination. Then there's Pingu's Dream,
which received an unofficial ban and was pulled from British television because it featured a giant haunting walrus that was deemed just way too frightening for young viewers. And in an episode called Pingu Quarrels with His Mother, the BBC actually stepped in and edited out a scene where Pingu's mother slaps him on the face. While some parents certainly felt Pingu was a bit too naughty, the show's unapologetic, realistic portrayal of childhood, the messy bodily fluids, the sibling rivalry, the whole shebang, was largely what made it feel so authentic to kids.
Section 4. The viral phenomenon. Pingu in the digital age.
7.69 million. Just let that sink in for a second. That is the number of subscribers on the official Pingu YouTube channel today. We're not just talking about a little bit of nostalgia here. This is staggering modern-day viral engagement. Pingu has become a massive cultural touchstone for millennials and Gen Z who grew up with the show, and he is actively capturing entirely new audiences in the digital age.
And this global expansion happened incredibly fast. In 2011, the toy giant Mattel acquired Pingu through its purchase of Hit Entertainment. Then, in 2017, the franchise took a huge leap with Pingu in the City. This was a Japanese computer-animated anime spin-off where Pingu and his family leave the Antarctic and move to a bustling city. And obviously, we cannot talk about the digital age without mentioning the memes. Pingu's mischievous antics and his absolutely iconic "Newt Newt" catchphrase have sparked an endless stream of viral content across social media platforms, firmly solidifying his status in modern internet pop culture.
Finally, Section 5. The future, coming full circle with Aardman.
Sarah Cox, the chief creative director over at Aardman, gave us this fantastic quote regarding their new partnership with Mattel. She said, "The charm of the stop-frame animation, along with the quirky, irreverence, and character-driven storytelling, aligns perfectly with our creative approach." And honestly, she is completely right. Aardman is famous all over the world for their commitment to humor, charm, and tactile physical storytelling. They are absolutely the perfect spiritual successors to Ottmar Gutmann's original vision from the 1980s. Because if there's one thing Aardman understands, it's comedy that totally transcends language barriers.
So as Pingu returns to his tactile stop-motion roots in the hands of the absolute masters at Aardman, what new boundaries of physical comedy will this beloved penguin push next? Will we see brand new Grammarly words invented? What fresh mischief is he going to get into? I don't know about you, but I seriously cannot wait to find out. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I will catch you on the next one.